Howdy. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024 show of the V Brown Bag. My name is Damian Carlson. Our guest this evening is yet another Damian. His name is Damian Burks. So Damian Burks is here to talk about scaling content creation with Gen AI and Terraform. We'll get to that in a moment. First, I just want to remind everyone that you can join the community, the V Brown Bag community online. We are on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Threads. We are at the Brown Bag on Twitter. Myself, Damian, 6 Foot Dad, and a few others regularly host and co-host the show. Chris Shala and Roger are unavailable this evening, so you've just got the Damians holding it down, doing the thing. So thank you. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and we appreciate it. Also, just one more thing that was kind of top of mind. Earlier today, I put out a tweet on the V Brown Bag Twitter account saying, just kind of acknowledging how ridiculously tough it has been in the tech community this year with all the layoffs and the saturated market and, just the general difficulty in speaking to a human about a job rather than just getting an automated decline or having an AI finding you unworthy. So, what I would like to do, if there's anyone out here tonight or who's listening afterwards, who is a hiring manager or knows a hiring manager that would like us to promote that through our social media, we'd love to. We've all got friends who are looking for jobs, and the past few years have really changed how we look for jobs post COVID, and technical conferences adjusting to kind of new attendance numbers and things like that. So it's been a different environment than it has been in years past. So if there's any way that we can help, please let us know. The DMs on Twitter are open. So if we don't follow you, just feel free to give us a shout. And that's all I have to say about that. So, Mr. Damian, hi, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Mr. Dame?
I'm doing really well. Uh, what 80s movie was it when they were like doctor and they're like shaking hands with each other? Spies Like Us, maybe.
Yeah,
Anyways,
maybe so.
so I have a question for you, Damien.
Yes,
I
you
was
do.
born in the latter half of the 1970s, right? And at that time, Damien was not a very well-known name. In fact, I would say that based on my own personal experience, Damien might have had a negative connotation due to its usage in some movies at that time. And this is how I measured my name's popularity. Like if you go to a gift shop and you see the little rotisserie of keychains, right? Like it
Yeah.
was always like Daniel, Dylan, never a Damien, right? Never a Damien. And I've actually seen Damien's on there recently. So I feel like our name has just like come up, right? And I've
Oh
seen
yeah.
different spellings of Damien, right? Your spelling,
Yep.
my spelling, our ON brothers,
Yes.
right? Like, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been really cool. And it's also really cool to just see more people with that name. So has that been an experience that you've noticed or that you share?
I think ultimately, like when I used to go to places that were super popular, like Universal Studios or Disney World, I was able to find my name.
Hmm.
But the problem is when I would find it, I would never get it and I'll hesitate and then I'll come back and try to search for it and it'll be gone. So I've
Oh,
always settled
yeah.
for just getting the first letter of my name
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's
Well, yeah.
plenty of people with the
Yeah.
first letter of D, right? Like plenty of D
Yeah.
names.
Yeah,
So
that works too. Just like when I go shoe shopping and a size 13 guy, like a crowd of them has already been there, right? Like I'm sure all the Damians arrived earlier that day and stole
yeah,
those keychains. just 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 bought them in droves and you just
terrible luck.
missed it.
Yep, terrible luck.
Yeah. So welcome to the show. I've really been looking forward to this. I've spent quite a bit of time looking at your GitHub and your YouTube channel, and you've got a really interesting and kind of uh, a fresh voice, right? That I've heard about, right? within the kind of intersection of development and operations and security. So,
Mm.
tell us a little bit about yourself and what makes you happy
Oh,
from a technical
absolutely.
perspective. Yeah,
Okay, sweet. Yes, yeah, no worries. So, hello everyone. My name is Damien. I am the founder of the DevSec Blueprint, which is essentially a YouTube channel at the moment, but it's going to turn into something a bit more than that, wherein I basically help provide people with resources on how to become DevSecOps engineers and cloud DevSecOps engineers, as well as I create a lot of content on the side, and I work as a cloud security engineer during the day for a financial services company. Um, so a lot of things that what I really do that really make me happy is creating content and giving back to the community, because without the community, I would not be here today.
yeah,
I feel that the community, especially the cloud security and DevSecOps community, is very, very giving. And there's a lot of content out there that really helps me uh, do well within my career and do well with like personal projects and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things that really, really make me happy, especially on a technical front. I do a lot of side projects outside of work as well. I like to be hands on the keyboard, and hopefully, this episode today, what I'm going to talk about, is really going to show y'all, like, some of the things that I've built. And while I believe that it's really, really good to scale your content creation usage in AI, especially if you're a YouTuber who used to be a blogger but want to still remain a blogger, but you're trying to make YouTube videos, it's kind of hard to do that. So, yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty much where I am.
yeah. I've done a little bit of that myself, and it is extremely time consuming to write a script, film that script, hopefully in one take, right? Edit it,
Yeah,
YouTubeify it, right? Like that is, I mean, for like a short 5 to 8 minute video, you can spend hours, right?
yeah.
Hours, and it's like it's a tight five, but man, I spent 20 hours on it. Like it's a lot of work.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
yes, I'm really interested in hearing more about this topic.
absolutely. And I'm excited to share it.
Cool, cool. Well, we can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
All right, let's go
And while
ahead
you're
and
doing
get
that,
started.
yep. While you're doing that, everyone else, if you've got any questions, just feel free to throw them on the platform that you're watching this on, and I'll answer them. Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, what have you. We'll answer them or make sure that Damien can answer them for you. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's share my screen and let's talk about the first thing, which is Terraform. So, just so that we kind of get a level set, right? Folks who may not necessarily know what Terraform is on a call or on this episode. Terraform is basically an infrastructure as code platform that allows you to be able to deploy into various different cloud service provider environments, right? So it supports Amazon, AWS, it supports Google Cloud, there's Azure, and there are a couple of other cloud service providers that it supports, and it has like providers for, which are things that essentially allow you to be able to download all the necessary resources to be able to deploy, you know what I mean, codify your infrastructure, and then deploy that into the cloud service provider of your choice. So the key thing about Terraform is not only is it something that you can easily adopt by basically just installing the CLI tool that comes with it on your machine, but you can also again build, collaborate with various different other people. You can reuse it amongst various different other people, and you can also create teams with different developers who can or who will use your infrastructure as code, your IAC, right? And the beautiful thing about Terraform that I want y'all to really, really know is and understand is that it's scalable, right? And there are various different ways that you can scale it, and it is free. Unless, of course, you want to pay for the enterprise version, but for the most part, it's free. And you can also give back and contribute to it by contributing to their platform as well, because I believe it's on GitHub. So there's quite a few use cases that Terraform comes with. As someone who has a security background, I'm very familiar with the infrastructure as code portion, which is what most of the people, which is really what it's well known for. But there's also the other aspect where it's like, if you want to let's say, preventive policies to protect people from deploying things or deploying misconfigured resources into the cloud that could be vulnerable or that can open up the doors for people to just kind of like walk into your cloud environment, like in a public S3 bucket, for example. You can create Sentinel policies, HashiCorp Sentinel policies, or even leverage Open Policy Agent, which is a rules engine or policy engine that's open source, to be able to create those rules to prevent people from doing bad things. So Terraform ultimately is the bee's knees. HashiCorp is by far amazing. And what I will just kind of give you guys a little bit of overview is just kind of walk you through like the documentation. So when you're creating your resources, or if you want to leverage Terraform in a way where you need something to kind of guide you through creating your Terraform templates, this is the documentation that you can go through, and it has all the various different types, where it's like syntax rules and how to be able to create like modules and what do providers mean and so on and so forth. It has all of that information right here, and I can attest that I use this documentation quite a bit when I need to figure out what's going wrong. But ultimately, this is something that I'll definitely post in the chat and share with y'all. And this is where you can find basically, how to figure out how to write Terraform, uh, Terraform templates and whatnot. And just to kind of give you guys an overview of what it is I'm going to talk about, I remember saying scaling content creation using Terraform, right? So the thing is, as someone who's a YouTuber, I produce quite a few YouTube videos throughout the day or throughout the month. And for me, it was a struggle trying to blog. It was a struggle to try to like, create the YouTube video, then edit the YouTube video, then publish a YouTube video on my YouTube channel. And then on top of that, I wanted to write a blog on everything that I've talked about in the YouTube video. That's challenging, right? And there's so much time that you have within your day to be able to do something like that. So, what I decided to do was I decided that I wanted to create some type of project. And this is called the Personal GCP Blogging Assistant, right? So, what this blogging assistant essentially what it does is it's basically a framework that I designed to be able to automate the creation of blog posts based on the YouTube videos that I've published, and as well as taking those transcripts from the YouTube video and then using generative AI on the back end to be able to create that blog post and then check it in. Now, the key thing about this is I'm just going to kind of walk y'all through the overall like architecture. If you're familiar with some of the services or you're familiar with Google Cloud, this will be second nature to you. But if not, I will basically just explain what this is and what it all means. So for me, right, and that is definitely not what I wanted to see. But let's look at the raw. All right, or not. Let's not look at the raw because that definitely wasn't what I wanted to see. All right, so coming back, let's make this bigger. So when we come here, this is the base level architecture diagram. At a very high level, this is how it's supposed to work. So with this source code repository, this repository contains a few things. Number one, it contains the code for the actual processing function or cloud function. And it contains all of the infrastructure related code for all of these resources that is in this red box, right? And all of this is managed with Terraform. And just to add a little bit more context to it, if I were to make a change to this right now, the GitHub Actions, which essentially is a CI/CD workflow that GitHub provides us, will basically communicate with Terraform Cloud and deploy all of my infrastructure, including the cloud function. So what you see here is this is basically the workflow, which is essentially it's a step functions equivalent. So when I am attempting to, let's say I specify some type of payload, right? And I want to say with this payload, I want to say a video name and as well as a the URL to my video. This workflow will essentially have a list of steps that it's going to do and is going to basically interact with this function several times within those list of steps. And we'll go over that because I'll show y'all what that looks like and what those steps are because it's super duper important. And then of course, the this this function interacts with the secrets manager, which is basically the place in Google Cloud or service that keeps all of the secrets that I need. So this could be, API keys that I need to interact with ChatGPT or OpenAI. This could be keys that I need to interact with some other services like a proxy, for example, which I'll touch on in a bit, and a couple of other things. And then in a cloud, in most cases, you need some type of role or identity of some type that will give you the permission to be able to communicate with your other resources. So, with the workflow service account in Google Cloud, the service account gives the workflow the ability to be able to communicate, or it has the permissions for the workflow to communicate and interact with that cloud function. And that function as a service account has that ability to be able to interact with the secrets manager to pull the secrets and also the storage bucket, which ultimately is the thing that holds the code to begin with. And the function sources the code from the storage bucket, right? Now, at a very high level, that's essentially how everything works. And this little icon right here is basically like a VPC. So the function itself is inside of a virtual private cloud and that allows it to be able to interact with the internet and stuff like that, right? But the thing is, Google Cloud itself is exceptionally like it's very easy for you to create something very quickly in Google Cloud, which is part of the reason why I chose Google Cloud for this project to begin with. Um, so, with that, I'm going to explain to you at a very high level how this is going to work. So, remember when I say that I create a YouTube video and I go through the editing process and I upload it to my channel? The thing is, when I finish and I upload that YouTube video to my channel, the beautiful thing about this is that all I have to do is log into Google or my Google Cloud project, trigger my workflow, and then from there, my workflow interacts with that cloud function to be able to go through and execute several different steps. So the first thing it's going to do is going to grab that transcript from my YouTube video, right? And after that, it interacts with ChatGPT and it interacts with the model I'm stumbling over words, GPT-4o. There we go. And it basically calls it and tells it, hey, I want a blog post for this given video based on this transcript. And in the code itself, there's a prompt that I have hard coded that I basically fiddled with quite a bit to get the best results and just slapped it in there. And I'll show y'all what that looks like in just a second. ChatGPT then gives me that payload back and it's like, here's your blog post in Markdown format. And the reason why I use Markdown format is because I publish my blog posts to two places. It's Hashnode for one and Dev2 for the other one. And Hashnode and Dev2 both support Markdown. So if you're a developer and you like to write your documents in Markdown, you never have to leave your IDE. Hashnode takes care of that for you. And it's also integrated with GitHub. So it takes that payload, comes back to the cloud function. And after that, the fifth step would be it takes that Markdown blog post and it basically publishes it or uploads it to this repository that contains all of my blog posts in GitHub, which is called the DSB Digest. And then once that takes place, it's done. I look at the results, and the results it returns me some very useful information, and I'll talk to you guys about that as well. So you kind of got an idea of like the flow. You kind of got an idea of what it is that I'm doing. So what I want to show you guys. Oh, I see, Damien, you're coming off mute. So if you have any questions, definitely stop me. before I move on to the next thing?
Yeah. It's actually a question in the chat from Claim Your Freedom. The question is, does the diagram describe how Terraform state files are managed?
It does not. And the reason is because I'm using Terraform Cloud, and Terraform Cloud manages the state.
Okay.
So my state files are not managed locally, it's managed with Terraform Cloud. And
Okay.
this is essentially the, just kind of answer this question in a bit detail. This is Terraform Cloud, where I have like all of my various different workspaces. And the one that I have here, this is the GCP DSB, a logging assistant. This is where the state is managed. So is managing Terraform Cloud for me. So I don't have to worry about that locally. Does that answer your question?
I believe it does. Yeah. Second is a question from me. Why GCP? Is there a feature or a function that GCP offered over the other big cloud providers? Is it
So
just what you're
we're
familiar with? Yeah.
So I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm a lot more familiar with AWS than I am GCP, and that's me being honest.
Hmm.
I chose GCP because I was learning it, and I wanted to figure out a way to create something in GCP to help me study, pass my certification exam. So this was one way for me to go about doing it, but it also kind of opened my eyes to really understand just how simple Google Cloud is compared to AWS, and how developer first I feel, this is just me, how developer first I feel the cloud platform is. So compared, let's say, like if I try to replicate this or do this in AWS, I'm pretty sure it would have taken me twice as long to build this in AWS compared to Google Cloud. So that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I did it.
Okay. That that makes a lot of sense. I know I actually have only a little bit of experience with GCP, but much more with Azure and AWS, and it's interesting to me how each cloud kind of has a different feeling about it. Azure is very solution oriented.
Mhm.
AWS is amazingly thorough and extremely complex, and you can basically build anything you want as complicated as you'd like it, and they won't stop you. you know
Yeah,
but that can be really really overwhelming, as you're going in and getting started. There's just a lot to kind of take in. So I really do like your point of just uh y- using that because you needed a good reason to use it. I've done a lot of that too. I learn best through doing. And if I have to try to solve an actual problem, I learn way better than if I just try to read a book about it or watch a video about it. So that makes sense. Thank you.
same, same. Yeah, no, I'm definitely the same way. My learning style is like 70% tactile kinesthetic. So I'm like, okay, I have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Claim Your Freedom, for asking that question. So, because now it kind of redirects me to this next part, which is where I'm actually going to show y'all how it actually builds. So, this is my workspace, and there are a few reasons why I use Terraform Cloud over using Terraform just locally. Number one, Terraform Cloud gives me that extra layer of protection and security, because I don't necessarily have to keep all of my credentials locally. I can store my service account key for Google Cloud in an environment variable and source it from there, which allows me to be able to interact with my Google project to deploy my resources. And on top of that, state is managed in Terraform Cloud. And if I wanted to open this up to have someone else collaborate on it, of course, the code is checked into GitHub, but I also can just give them or send them an invite to my organization. And then from there, they can also trigger runs and, do certain things and help manage it as well. So you can see here, I'm just going to kind of show you guys because you guys are going to be able to see this. But as you can see, for this particular workspace, I have all of these various different variables which pretty much contain my GitHub auth token so that I can, interact with my other GitHub repository to check in my code. It contains my username, which is plain text. Y'all know my username on GitHub. I'm not concerned about that. But all of these other sensitive properties, it holds that information for me. I don't have to put that into my code. So that was one of the key selling points for me using Terraform Cloud over doing it locally. And on top of that, if I wanted to create another project for my organization and I wanted to deploy in the Google Cloud, I can easily do that by just creating a new workspace and then having creating a variable set, which basically contains all of my cloud service provider keys. And that alone was like one of the key things that I thought was amazing. So it just takes the pressure off of me having to manage my keys locally and have everything in just one centralized place and then scale out from there. So, with that being stated, let's go look at some code. So, I'm going to just pop on open VS Code. There we go. All right, awesome. So, I basically went through this README file with y'all in Google. I'm sorry, not Google, in GitHub because it was much prettier and it's easier to look at it on the eyes. So, what I'm going to do is kind of walk y'all through um, some of the things that you kind of want to see. So, the first thing is this is the provider.terraform file. So, in this particular case, this is very, very important because what this lets you know, or what lets Terraform know, is that number one, you want to use Terraform Cloud, but you also want to use this organization and that work and this workspace, which is what I just showed you guys in Edge or in my web browser. And the second thing is I specify the provider, which is Google, and it always pulls the latest one. And I have to specify my project and also my region. So I specify my project ID as well as the region for this for all of my infrastructure that I wanted to be deployed in. And then all of this is basically my infrastructure. Very, very small, with the exception of this. So this is most important because this is the workflow that I'm going to be triggering live for y'all to show y'all how everything works. So this is basically the source contents, and inside of this is all YAML file. Workflow supports YAML, and this is basically the steps inside of that workflow wherein I'm basically communicating with the cloud function to be able to process a whole bunch of stuff. Um, so you can see I have 3 key steps. The first step is to get that video information. The second step is to generate that blog post. And the third step is to commit the code to GitHub. And then at the end of it, it basically returns the result body. And the body includes the commit ID and as well as the branch name. And that's just informational for me. So I can go to GitHub and see that. So these are all of my secrets that are managed. And I'm just kind of go back and remember that I showed y'all the variables for my given workspace. This is me dumping all of those sensitive variables into Secrets Manager in Google Cloud. So you can see that I'm basically just calling this variable, which is OpenAI auth token, which when the Terraform run is executed, it basically grabs that variable or whatever the contents are in that variable from the Terraform Cloud workspace and it puts it into Secrets Manager. And then lastly, but not least, these are just the variables. So for every variable that I had to set, a variable that I set in Terraform Cloud, I just have to reference it here as such. And that's basically all there is to it when it comes down to just some of the key things that I wanted to show you guys. The cloud function itself is it's just a cloud function. It just has Python 3.12. That's what I like to use for my programs. So I use Python, and it just basically says some other configurations. And these are all the environment variables that I'm just kind of passing in to the cloud function, which is allowing me to be able to interact with things. And I know you're probably thinking, well, this is not safe, right? Because you're passing in the ID, but I want y'all to remember that I'm referencing the actual ID for that is set in Secrets Manager, which basically allows me to be able to go back and then grab the actual secret. So it's not storing the secret in plain text. Just want to throw that out there because I know that may be a little confusing. Two key things. This is my repository URL that I'm going to check the code in, and the code meaning like the blog post. And then this is the name of my YouTube channel, and this is just more of a formality. So there's one key thing that I really wanted to point out, and this is something that I did is more or less like a shortcut. It's not best practice, but when you're interacting with YouTube, Google has their own API or own way that you should interact with them. And this actually happened very recently because this was working before I actually had to go through and actually make a couple of changes. So Google, when you interact with YouTube, there is a list of Google APIs that you have to use because not Google owns YouTube. But I decided to use a third-party API because I didn't want to have to go through and fill out the paperwork of documenting, like, oh, I have to document the business case and the use case and stuff like that. And sometimes you have to do that with, like, if you want to interact with Instagram APIs or Facebook APIs, you'll have to do that. But I was just like, I don't want to do it. So I decided to use a third party um, uh, uh, module or dependency, and this is called YouTube Transcript API. A couple months ago, with me using this, they decided that they were going to not allow, they basically blocked it, right? So I wasn't able to pull my transcript, like I think it was like a month or two ago, from YouTube because I'm using this process or this API, which is not a formalized API. So what I had to do was I basically had to create a proxy, and this is called by using Smart Proxy, which pretty much routes my traffic through something that's trusted that makes it look like I'm actually like on my computer executing this instead of in some CSP executing it. So just wanted to point that out. If you guys want to use this, you're going to have to go to Smart Proxy and pay a little bit of money to, use the proxies and whatnot. But it's very inexpensive. And to be honest with you, making the call to the OpenAI only costs me like 10 cents per call or per generation. So it's a very inexpensive product for me to be able to leverage to generate those blog posts. So if I wanted to execute this and I wanted to deploy this, there are instructions at the very bottom that basically kind of walk you through what you need to do and how you be able to create your workspace and set your variables, et cetera, et cetera. First thing you want to do always is type in, I'm going to make this bigger. Oh, that's way too big. I want to make this a little bigger. Type in Terraform in it. And what this is going to do is going to initialize your workspace. It's going to download all the necessary providers and stuff like that that you need. And once you've done that, it'll also initialize with Terraform Cloud, and it give you this this return code saying it's fully initialized. The next thing that you're going to want to do is you want to type in Terraform apply, and I'm going to do this thing called Terraform apply auto approve, and what that basically means is that it's going to just auto approve the plan so that it actually applies. So I'm going to hit enter there because I'm already logged in. And what's going to happen is it is going to interact with Terraform Cloud and it's going to prepare a remote apply. So if I go back to the UI here and I click this maybe once or twice or refresh this whole thing, what you'll see is the plan is queued. So you'll see it was able to authenticate with that and the plan is running. And right now, you're not going to see any new resources show up that need to be created aside from the cloud function for whatever reason there's, file the hash changes. But you'll be able to see like what resources will change and what things, what things will be created, what new things will be created. So I'm seeing here that this is Cloud Functions processing function. And all it's doing is basically changing the zip file. And the beautiful thing is that it also gives you a cost estimation. So let's say if I was using like an auto scaling. I'm sorry, not auto scaling group, but a load balancer of some type, it may give me a cost for that load balancer, saying that, you know what, this load balancer is going to cost you like $16 a month, right? Just base. So that's one thing that you get from Terraform Cloud that I don't think you get from the CLI. I haven't seen that because I haven't interacted with it for quite some time. So as you can see, the applies, and I have all of my changes. Things are changing in my project, and I'm going to go over and I'm going to show y'all what that looks like as well. So let's see. It's going to take a couple seconds. This should light up green very, very soon. And while I'm waiting for this to apply, let me see. It says Damien mentioned using OPA to create policies to set boundaries for IC. What does he use to write test record code? Claim Your Freedom, are you talking about just like IDEs? Because if so, then I use VS Code for practically everything. OPA, Open Policy Agent, I've collaborated with the team and I've contributed to the open source project. They actually have a extension in VS Code that you can use to be able to, like, add colors to your Rego files when you're writing your your tests and stuff like that, or your Rego files.
So when you were talking about interacting with the YouTube API, was it the creation of like the OAuth application that on the Google side? Yeah.
The OAuth scope, and you have to go through it. And it's like, well, yeah, in order for you to get like production access, which is pretty much what this other API does, you have to like get it reviewed and approved and have a valid business case. And I'm just like, man, I just want to automate some stuff.
yeah. I actually wrote some automation for the vBrownBag that automates some YouTube and WordPress actions on AWS, and it uses the YouTube API. And yeah, that getting OAuth done successfully for the first time made me very, very happy because I beat my head against that wall for a long time.
Dude,
But
I'm
yeah,
gonna have to.
it was a lot of work.
I'm gonna have to
But yeah,
reach
the
out to.
application. Yeah, for sure. The OAuth kind of application that we use, um, it's private, right? Like I'm a brand manager
Right.
on the YouTube channel. It's my Google account, right? Like it was all fine, right? Like no one else is going to use it. So of course, if it's unsafe or whatever, like I'll just click through because I did it and I know it's me, But yeah, if you're making this for other people, then I can see how that would definitely be. It wouldn't scale. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
that
just
makes
like, yeah, you
sense.
gotta document everything. It's like, yeah, don't forget about
Yeah,
going through and taking care of that. That may take you about a year,
yeah,
6 months.
indeed.
Yeah. So we finally got the apply done, which is great. You can see that one thing was destroyed, one thing was created and changed, which was basically the cloud function. It destroyed itself and then it recreated itself. So here is my Google project. I call it the DSV Innovation Hub because this is where I innovate a lot of different things, and it costs me a little bit of money to do it every month. And this is what that visualization looks like for the actual flow of that workflow for the blogging assistant. So you can see there are a total of 4 phases or steps, with the last step being returning output. And if I switch on over to this Lambda function, not Lambda function, Cloud function, you'll be able to see that this is the first one here. And you can see that, it has all the various different metrics and stuff. You can look at everything here, but you can see that this is the source code that has been uploaded for my Cloud function that I can use. So now what I want to show y'all is how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this pre-existing payload, which basically talks about, this is my other YouTube video, 4 certifications that future DevSecOps engineers should get. If you want to see what this video looks like, I'm going to try to click this and bring that up. Yep. So this is, let me see. Oh, the title was wrong. Pardon me. So definitely does not check the title. So let me go ahead and correct that for y'all. But ultimately, this is the video that I'm actually going to be sending through this. And you can see I have closed captions enabled here, which is necessary for this to be accomplished. So I'm going to basically take this. I'm going to execute again. I'm going to format this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to nuke it, and I'm going to paste the actual video name. So what this is basically going to talk about, is it should generate a blog post that has that basically everything that I stated in this YouTube video in that post form. So I see it work. So I'm going to click this button at the bottom called execute. And it's going to be running for me. So you can see that it's running. It's going to get the video information. So you see it was able to get that video information. So now it's going to generate that blog post. And this takes a little bit of time. And the reason why is because it's making that call to OpenAI's API and leveraging GPT-4 to give me that blog post in Markdown format. And then after it got that, it's going to commit that code to GitHub. And then after that, it's going to return out. So once it's done, you should see the output here. And bam. So you see, it was able to give me the branch name, which is basically a hash of the actual video name and a commit ID. So if I take you to this GitHub project, you should see it, right? So let's look at it. Digest. And I come here and I make this smaller. And as you can see, you see how something was pushed here 28 seconds ago? That's awesome. So what'll happen here is I'll click on this branch. And of course, it's going to say it's a one commit ahead of main. And I'm going to scroll right on down. And you see this file is called rename_file.md. I'm going to click on this file and we're going to see what happened. And basically, this is what it generated. So this part right here, half of it is auto-populated. The other parts, like this, save draft is true, enable save of contents, is basically appended to it. But the majority of this is all written by GenAI. And you can see that it basically came up with the title name. Comes up with the overview of the DevOps Pro exam. Some of my key takeaways that I stated, and the exam structure. And I also have image placeholders wherein I can just say like, oh, okay, well, I can add an image here that states like, oh, here's the exam guide that you should follow, and then in my video, I give like prerequisites. So I say like, oh, before you even try to attempt to go for this exam, you should take the Solutions Architect Associate and Certified Developer Associate exams. And basically it just goes through and really writes all of this up for me. So of course it's not completely accurate because Stefan Mark's name is completely wrong and misspelled. But what happens is that this takes care of like literally all of the writing that I would spend. It takes care of it for me in like seconds. And I don't necessarily think it's plagiarism because I am basically taking my transcript from my video and didn't tell it to take all of this text and just write it up and make it look nice, but make sure you include everything. So I specify the parameters in which it needs to create this content. And in fact, it does. So if we want to look at this in a much prettier way, because it doesn't look too pretty, I'm just going to take this. I'm going to add that back. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm also going to take this part, move that, and I am going to commit these changes just right here to this branch. And you can see it looks much better because we're able to see, what happens and, how everything looks. And you can see different prerequisites, study plan, All of these things that are listed here, basically, I stated in my video. And that's essentially how you streamline content creation with Terraform, Python, and Google Cloud by taking videos and turning them into blog posts. And that's it for me. Thank y'all
That's
for
really
listening to me
awesome.
ramble.
Yeah. No, that was a very succinct explanation. It's almost like you've done this before. Um, uh, how do you account for like network interruptions or anything through the execution of your function, or do you
So
account for it?
so I don't I haven't added any like exception handling
Hmm.
for kind of for like breaks in the function. Um if the workflow itself like breaks, it just breaks. But um, for networking interruptions and stuff like that, I would say it's probably very, very rare that I'm gonna have like a networking issue because everything is communicating on Google Cloud's back channels.
Hmm.
So I most likely will face something if the region that I have my code in just goes down completely. That means I won't be able to do anything.
Right.
But
Right.
it's pretty resilient for that matter. So definitely,
Okay.
definitely have no worries there.
And so you kind of left this as an unmerged PR, right? So you can actually do that human interaction step.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
And I go in and let's say I want to go review this. I want to add all of my nice little pictures and something of the sort. I can definitely do that and get this ready with all the tags with my cover image. And then once that's all said and done and it's ready, and I added all that information in here, then it'll cross publish this blog post to um, and I have an example for you that I can show y'all that's technically my first AI generated blog post based off of my video, my transcript.
Sure.
And this is what it looks like. Of course, with a little bit of manipulation and tweaking and adding my own sauce to it. But for Biden, I found, of course, this was the very first one that was generated with AI. And I was able to add a table of contents in here, gave it an introduction. I even added like my own little cert and stuff like that. But this is an example of what it looked like. And 80% of this was written by ChatGPT. I just went through, updated the verbiage a little bit, added my own little sauce, and added pictures and basically published it. And this is same blog post right here is listed in GitHub, which is basically what is it? This one right here.
Very cool.
Yep.
Um, do you how do you account for the AI making things up, or is that part of your prompt? Just to like don't introduce new information beyond what I've said already in the transcript. I mean, do you account for that in the prompt, or
Yeah.
just look
So
for it in?
my
Yep.
yeah. So to answer that question, so my prompt, I'm just gonna kind of go through and go back to this one. My prompt in itself, if I go and show you that, is basically this one, right? So I'm basically saying, could you create a detailed blog post and mark down what placeholders for pictures and diagrams in first person, like it's me, and
Hmm.
based on the transcript below. So this part right here is basically saying like just write it based on my transcript uh, that I have and I'm giving to you. And it took me a while to kind of feel comfortable with AI not like pulling stuff from different places. Um, because ultimately, like when it started to come out and it started to write things, I realized that it was actually reading and going through all of my like my transcript and creating a blog post just off of that transcript because everything that I mentioned in my transcript was mentioned in the blog post. The only thing it came up with was like the grammar and the verbiage and stuff like that to make it sound cool.
Okay.
But that's where that human review process comes into play. It's like a quality check to make sure that it's not producing something funky. And no matter what, like I still have to go through and update it and edit it to make it sound a bit more human. But the majority of like the structure and the stuff that I need is already in a blog post.
Gotcha. Okay. I see that you also give a friendly greeting to AIs. I am also a friendly greeting enjoyer. I always say, "Good morning, Claude. How are you today?" It's an LLM. It doesn't care, but it makes me feel better, you know?
Yeah, and I always end with thank you.
Yeah. When the robots take over, maybe it will deem me worthy of living because I was kind.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's a good practice. Be kind to your to to your robots. Claim Your Freedom had another quick question. Are you using Edge
Yes.
on a Mac?
I am. And okay, so I know this is like super controversial because people ask me the same question. I used to use Opera, and then Opera was giving me a lot of heartache and trouble. And then I switched to Edge because I want my browser history to be the same across
Yep.
my various different machines. Because the machine that I have right here, that's sitting like right next to me, is my gaming rig, but it's also like my super duper heavy development rig. And I use Edge on that, and that's Windows 11. So it's easy for me to be able to hop back and forth. I don't really. I used to be a Edge hater. Then as I started to use it over the years, I think they've really improved quite significantly, and it's super fast, super slick, and it doesn't. It's not resource heavy or intensive like Google Chrome. So that's why I
Yeah,
started
or
using
even
it more.
Firefox. I use
Dude,
I was playing a game that I've been really into lately is Satisfactory. I can't get it out of my brain. So I was playing Satisfactory, Satisfactory was building things for me while I was watching a video about Satisfactory, because that's how you maximize efficiency. And like Firefox was eating up far more memory than the damn game was. You know, I was like, "What are you doing? Like, why is it 3 gigs of memory?" You know, like it's just a couple tabs,
dude.
y'all. Like, I don't know. So yeah, but you know, being able to run. I come from the days of Internet Explorer, and I used to write. I used to build websites on Internet Explorer, which, if you've ever had to build or test websites on Internet Explorer, it's very painful, right? Like it's terrible. So my natural inclination is to dislike my. I think it being available on multiple platforms is also kind of a testament to the Microsoft that we see today, right?
Yeah.
Like, where it's not just all about locking down in one place. It's available in a wide variety of platforms and different languages, et cetera. So that's very cool. Thank you for telling us about that. I didn't know you could
Yeah.
even get
No
Edge on
worries.
a Mac, so I learned something today for sure.
Yeah.
All righty. We are getting close to the top of our hour. Is there anything that you'd like to mention, like your YouTube channel or your GitHub or Twitter handle, anything like that, Damien?
Yeah, most definitely. So if you guys are on Twitter, follow me at Damian J. Burks. First name, last name, and J in the middle. Same thing with YouTube, Damian J. Burks. So it's very synonymous across like all the various platforms. So you can find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram if you have a social platform or social media with Instagram as well. It's more of like my actual life, like because I'm into cars and anime, so you'll see a lot of that on IG. But yeah, that's basically it. And if you guys want to follow me on YouTube, you can just basically come here and I'll post this link in the chat. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
if I can. Yeah. Oh, here it is.
You may. I don't know if it'll hyperlink it, but you may be able to. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it says I
Let
have
me
to
know if it
join
doesn't
from my
let you.
YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'll just post it in. Yeah.
Um,
And I did see one question from Claim Your Freedom. It says on my blog post, do I attribute myself as the author? I do. And at the very bottom, I always give like a disclaimer saying that this blog post is based off of this video. But I don't necessarily include AI into that. So that's one thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
YouTube gave me the long name for your channel, but there it is. It's in the chat.
Okay,
I
cool.
don't know why it decided to give me your actual channel name that way, but it did. All right. Well, yeah, I think we're about done for the evening. Thank you very much, Damien. It is a pleasure meeting another Damien. It's a pleasure talking about a new piece of technology that I don't have experience with. So thank you very much. I guess one final note for for this evening: if you're in the United States and you are able to vote, I encourage you to do so. The end.
Please. Please.
Yep. You just got to vote. I remember years ago, I was voting, and as I was standing in line to walk in to vote, an older man came out and he goes, "I voted. Now I can bitch about it." And I think about that every time I go to vote. Like, if you don't vote, you shouldn't complain. So there you go. Vote so you can complain.
Exactly. Exactly. That is my exact motto. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The hammer on the nail.
All right, y'all. Thank you very much. And we'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.